Hey everybody, Jake here from Bearded Gear, and I'm ready to do my full review and kind of the results of how it went carrying this bad boy for a week. This is the Bradford Guardian 3, which means it is the 3-inch blade version of the Guardian series of knives. It has the 3D contoured, what do they call them? G-wood scales, where I guess I've actually learned, so it's not just wood, it's layers of wood and G10, which is part of what gives it this cool color and texture. So yeah, I have had this knife on me for 7 days total now. There was about 2 days that I didn't carry it just because of what I was doing those days. Like if I'm not wearing a belt, I can't wear this. So there was one where like we went to a pool party at my brother-in-law's house and I was in board shorts. Not gonna wear this that day. But any day that I've had a belt on, since I started this challenge, I have had this on my belt. I've carried it the same way pretty much every time. It's been, I guess you'd call it about 1 o'clock on my waist. I'll show in some B-roll here as I'm talking how I've been carrying it and how that's all worked out. But it's been way more convenient to carry than I thought it was going to be coming into this. So I guess, yeah, this is going to be a review and the results of the carry challenge. So to kind of sum up how it went carrying it, I was a little bit skeptical about EDCing a fixed blade because I had tried it once for like 2 days with my Essie Azula when I very first got that knife. But it was just with the factory sheath and I was carrying it vertically, kind of right on my hip like I would if I was hiking, and it just wasn't that comfortable. It didn't feel very convenient. I didn't find that I got any more utility out of having that knife on me compared to having a nice primary folder on me. So because it was less comfortable and didn't feel any more usable, I didn't really like it. But this carries horizontally, and because it carries horizontal and the profile of it, it's not too tall this way, it's not too fat this way, it's just a nice comfortable sheath setup, frankly, to have it on my body in that position. And then where it puts it, it's very intuitive to go ahead and draw it out of the sheath and use it and to resheath. And so I've liked the utility of where it sits, how accessible it is. I like that it doesn't print so bad. You don't really like see it through my t-shirt. There's not a weird lump there just because of where it sits on my body and kind of how it mounts. It's been very nice in that way. So the results of carrying it, actually EDCing it, are frankly very positive. Am I going to be carrying an EDC fixed blade every day moving forward from now on? No. But will I sometimes? Absolutely. It was something that I never did, and now I will sometimes do. Especially I think as it starts getting cooler outside. Right now it's still summer here, so it's kind of hot, and I tend to choose lighter weight, more minimalist gear when it's this temperature outside because I'm wearing shorts that are thin and just a t-shirt and all that. But once it's like jeans and a jacket weather, this becomes even more intriguing. So I'm really looking forward to, in the colder months, probably carrying it more and more. But even in clothes like this, like I said, it's been totally doable, hasn't been bothersome, and I've enjoyed it. So there will certainly be days where, I don't know, maybe once, twice a week, I decide to throw this on. And maybe this opens up more EDC fixed blades to me. In fact, it certainly will, because I have another one coming. I'll tease a little bit more that it's going to be a Steingraber knife, but I'm not going to say which model, which steel, anything like that. I'll just say that I'm very excited for it. But yeah, so let's talk about this knife as a whole, because the results of me carrying it are that I will continue to carry it. I'm not going to do it every day, like I said, but I will start EDCing fixed blades based on how this went. So this knife particularly, I think, is certainly worth talking about. I'd had quite a few people recommend that I check out the Bradford Guardian. Some people said the 3, some people said the 3.5, some people have said as big as like the 5, and I would like to try more of these, frankly, because I've really grown to appreciate the Guardian 3. There is frankly hardly anything that I can say that I'm not crazy about on this knife. The only real thing is there's a little bit of a point here. It's a little bit uncomfortable if I happen to try to grab onto it or something, but the way that my hand naturally falls into this knife, it's not even bothersome. It's really just if I'm grabbing it in an atypical grip. And other than that, I feel like that's kind of it. That's the only thing I can even point at that I'm not a fan of on the knife. Everything else is very, very good. This knife is actually quite thin behind the edge, and I appreciate that, because a fixed blade this small is not going to be like my robust outdoor fixed blade that I'm out batoning with and stuff. This is going to do folding knife type of tasks for me. I'm going to carry it on my belt in a daily environment, and I'm going to use it to open packages and process cardboard and cut zip ties and my normal EDC type of stuff. And so this grind is very, very good for that. Like, very good. In my first impressions video, I was doing some just cutting through magazine pages just to show how the edge did. Now that I'm in a hotel, I don't think I can reasonably facilitate that so easily. But the ease with which this edge went through material like that, and then as much as it's reiterated that through all of my testing, how well this knife cuts, it's impressed me a lot. I have folders, certainly quite a few, that aren't as slicey as this little fixed blade is. And so the way that this blade performs, the way that it feels in my hand, it all comes together to just make it a super usable platform. And so, yeah, it makes me intrigued about how their bigger knives are done. Because if this is so good for EDC type tasks, being the little guy, the Guardian 3, how is the Guardian 5 for outdoor tasks? You know, like they have my attention now. And they've had my curiosity for a long time. I've wanted to try one of these for quite a while, but now that I've had this one in hand and I've really put it through its paces, I just have a lot of confidence that Bradford is probably making really great knives throughout their lineup. So the materials used on this one are fairly simple. We've got M390 blade steel. It's kind of a black wash, so like DLC coated and then stone washed. Apologize for that freaking helicopter. But yeah, M390 blade steel. As you can see on this side, it just says Guardian 3. And then it's a fixed blade, so it's simple. Other than that, we just have some hardware and some handles. As I mentioned already, these handles are the G-wood ones, I think is what they call it. And they've got this really nice milled texture on them. I hope it shows through. There's just a very pleasant, like, there's these lines, and instead of being like checkered and overly grippy, they just provide the right amount of texture, where this knife feels super locked in, because of the profile of the handle, the way that it relates to my hand, the way my fingers fall into these grooves, the way that it bulges out here, kind of in the middle, and then flares a little bit at the end. All of it comes together to fill my hand super well. This knife feels bigger, frankly, than it is, and it's confidence inspiring. I don't feel like there's any chance that this knife is going to slip out of my hand, or that I'm not going to be properly indexed. Like, the way this handle relates to my hand is excellent, especially on a fixed blade this small, because it's easier, in my opinion, to get ergos right on a slightly larger knife. Once you get real big, then it gets problematic again. But this knife is pretty small to fit my hand this well. And so I like it when knife companies are able to design a handle shape that actually works well in application on small knives. Because I've had plenty of small knives where they feel small, and this doesn't. It feels full-sized in my hand, which I really, really like. I get a full 4 fingers on it. I can grip on it hard. I've got jimping here if I'm in kind of an aggressive saber grip, or the way I typically use it, I put my thumb further forward past the jimping, and I like how smooth it is. It's a nice big flat spot. I can push through material all day long. This knife just works. In reverse grip, very, very good. The finger grooves still aren't a problem, which is nice. Oftentimes, finger grooves that work in like a hammer or saber grip fall apart in a reverse grip because of the spacing of them. But on here, it still works very, very well. I've got a nice spot up here to wrap my thumb on top of the knife, which I love. It does have a lanyard hole if you're one of the few people who like to use that. I guess on a fixed blade I can see it more than on a folder, but still, even then, I'm not putting a lanyard on this knife ever. But yeah, reverse grip feels very good, very usable. In a draw cut, it falls apart because the handle is shaped to index with my fingers this way, so putting those grooves into my palm don't feel great, but I mean, it works. If I needed to make some cuts that way, I could. Same thing with a forward draw cut. It's just not the way it's designed. But yeah, I get a great grip on this hammer, saber, reverse, and those are kind of the most important grips to me. So yeah, I have really appreciated this knife. I've liked how usable it is. Is it more usable than a good primary folder for me? That's kind of still debatable in my head. I think you can definitely tell a difference when you're using a fixed blade compared to using a folder. But the types of tasks I would use this fixed blade for are the same as what I'd use a folder for. So I don't feel that, even if this is stronger technically because it doesn't have moving parts, I'm not going to be doing this, I'm not going to be using this for any tasks that require that level of strength. It's more just about how it then feels to use, if that makes any sense. So like, if I compare it to, this is just the knife I have sitting next to me here. This is the Giant Mouse Ace brand. Micarta scales, L-Max blade steel, love this knife. It's a great example of a primary knife that I love to carry front right pocket. Now, if this is also kind of looked at as a primary knife, being very robust, M390, a good size to use for just about anything I could use this knife for. They've got about the same amount of sharpened edge at the end of the day. When you look at the size difference of these, the fixed blade is able to get away with still kind of feeling like a full-size knife, although ultimately it's smaller when they're open. But obviously, this knife folds. So you're just playing with very different dimensions here. Like, the fixed blade, it kind of, it breaks all of the logic of a folder, because I feel like I don't necessarily get that much more of a full-size grip out of this knife for my hands personally than I do with this knife. But again, you look at them this way and the size difference is crazy, but then you fold it and the size difference is crazy again. So it's just this different game that I'm used to playing, where how the size comes into play. Because when you look at how much of a print this is compared to this is, you're obviously getting as much blade out of the folder without overall size total. Yeah, I don't even really know where I'm trying to go with that, but it's just an interesting thing to ponder on, I guess, is like how much fixed blade you need for it to be a good fixed blade versus how much folder you need for it to be a good folder. Because this not folding can only be as small as this, ever. A folding knife, you can get way more blade for the same amount of size, roughly. Like, imagine this closed is all handle, this much profile. You could have 5.5 inches of blade out of a handle that big. So the amount that you're trying to conceal when not in use is a big difference. But you carry it in a different spot. It's a totally different means of drawing it. There's a lot of difference here. So it's been really interesting for me. Every day that I've carried this, I've also had a primary folder still on me, because I'm so used to when I reach for a knife, if I'm in a situation where I need it like that, my muscle memory is still to go to that same spot in my pocket. If I were to get used to always having this on my belt in the same spot every single day, every time I need to reach for it, then I think I could do that. I could get used to it, and I wouldn't find that this is more difficult to carry on an average day than a folder. It's just different to carry. And so, would I go any bigger than this? Probably not. I feel like this is about the limit of where they've packed as much utility as can be packed in the amount of size that is reasonable for most people to carry. If you're a guy way bigger than me, then maybe you can EDC, the 5-inch version of this knife. I don't know, but for me, this is about as big as I'd want to take it. Once it gets longer than this, I feel like I'm going to start printing out on this side or something, and it'll just be heavier and larger in general. I'll feel it more, whereas with this, it's just kind of right on that edge where I feel that it's there. I don't forget that it's on me, but I don't know. It's been an interesting ride, this one. So, long story short, I really like the Bradford Guardian 3. I'd have no hesitancy to recommend this knife to anybody, whether they plan on carrying it as a true EDC every day. This is what's going on their body. Absolutely a fantastic choice. If they're planning on just carrying it while they're hiking, sure, reasonable choice. I feel like if you're gonna have one knife on you outdoors, I'd kind of recommend having something a little bit bigger in a lot of cases, but it depends on what type of hiking you do and all that kind of stuff. I guess what I mean to say is I don't hesitate to recommend this for EDC. If we're talking outdoor fixed blade, that's not the way that I see this being used. I'd probably recommend other knives that I own because I feel like they're more capable of going further than something thin and slicey and small like this is. But it has genuinely opened my eyes to the realm of EDCing a fixed blade. It's not that I wasn't aware that it was a thing people did before. It's just that I had never tried it with the right setup. And this is the right setup. This is a fantastic way to EDC a fixed blade. Horizontally, nice comfortable leather sheath that's rounded in all the right places, makes drawing the knife easy and convenient, resheathing the knife also easy and convenient. It just works very, very well. And this knife is very well made. It's, comfortable, it's convenient, it performs excellent. So, all in all, super, super positive about the way it went with the Bradford Guardian 3. And you guys will see when it's time what the next EDC fixed blade I'll be trying will be. And in the meantime, I will be carrying this every now and then, especially as it gets cooler. I'm sure that'll ramp up the frequency at which I carry it. But yeah, I guess that'll be that. This has been the Bradford Guardian 3 in M390 and G-Wood. Thank you so much for watching it with me. Apologize if the audio is echoey and weird here because I'm on a balcony at the beach, but we're working with what we got today. Thanks, guys.